Hello,
Welcome to
hello, hello.
hello. Welcome to Supernatural Sundays. We got myself, the Phil Billy. We got Vinny Voodoo coming in remote, and we got a special guest tonight. He's a real live necromancer. He talks to the dead, and due to privacy constraints, we are going to call him the Necroman, because he is a necromancer. He does speak with the dead, and he does hear them talk to him. He's going to be hanging out here with us tonight, and we're gonna have him answer some questions after a while. He's our special live in person real live guest tonight. Our first one ever.
Hey, and it's a lot different from this point of view. All right, let's get her kicked off today.
Absolutely. That's the Chestnut House in Manchester, Kentucky. It's been there since 1800s, and we're sponsoring the Chestnut House. It's just opened up this year for investigations. You could go there and do daytime tours, or you can book your group to go in there any night, weekend, whatever you want to do. All your evidence you get is yours that you collect. And yeah, there's the daytime tours. If you want to book, it's 502-783-7420. And the house used to be a coffin maker's house, and the front parlor room was used for actual funeral viewings for people having their visitations. So if you bought a camera, or I'm sorry, a coffin from Mr. Chestnut, he would actually let you have the viewing in his front parlor room. That was part of the package. So there's been a lot of dead people in and out of there, and Mr. Chestnut was into some macabre items. So we think that may be some other reasons why there's some activity stirred up there. Um, they're working toward eventually completely restoring the house to where you could be a bed and breakfast. It'd be like a haunted bed and breakfast. You could go in, have dinner, ghost hunt all night. If you make it through the night, then you can stay for breakfast. It's our upcoming podcast schedule. We have us on Sunday night, 7 p.m. Central, Supernatural Sundays. We cover everything from ghosts to cryptids to anything paranormal out there. UFOs, aliens. We got a call-in number if you think you are possessed or you're seeing a demon in your backyard or an alien out in your trash can. Just call us. We want to hear from you. Nothing's too crazy for us. And then Monday night we have Paranormal Talk, which is usually a weekend recap of different investigations that we do on the weekends with our two teams, Paranormal Connections and Supernatural Investigation Squad. That's us. Then there's some other groups we like to have paranormal unity. So we usually welcome any other groups that want to come with us, especially on the bigger fun investigations. Uh, and then other teams call in on that show. The next one is CM's Horror Emporium, and she goes over like horror movies, and she has like adult type horror video games that she'll play sometimes live, and they're pretty cool. I've never seen video games like that, but it's like you're in a movie, and you go through there and pick out clues. And uh, I think she's going to have. I think next week or this week she's going to have the Tremors guys on. Some of the guys that help make the Tremors movies. So that's going to be awesome. She may have already had them on. I might be wrong with that
Yeah,
one.
that was last week. I tuned into that. They're always a good time to watch. Fun. They have fun conversations.
Watch the rerun if you missed it, because it's pretty good. And then we have hashtag paranormal on Thursday with Tim and Adam, and that's pretty much scary stories. Like if you have a haunted story or you've been out doing some investigating and you just want to call in or you want to get on his show and talk about your experiences, that's what his show is all about. And then Friday we have the lighter side of paranormal, which is Aaron, who has all the funny stuff that happens on investigations. And on Thursday night we have Positivity Paranormal, which is Friday Eve to us, Thursday night. And she does a lot of spiritual talks, has other psychics, mediums, Reikis. I think she had a priest on a couple weeks ago, and she delves right into the spiritual side. And it's a pretty enlightening show. It's usually kind of a chill show. I like watching it. Kind of relax and sit there with your coffee and have a good evening. That's all of our lineup for the paranormal. So we're going to dive right into the paranormal news, things in the updates this week. And I have a couple pictures from last week's Perryville battlefield. There's a couple informative videos on here about Perryville as well. Vinny will just roll videos and we'll talk about them a little bit and see if anybody has any questions, and we'll go from there.
Was sometime around the fall of 2003. It was after August, because August is when I'd moved to Bowling Green. Went to up around Somerset to see my uncle, and spent the evening with him. And about 10:30, 11 at night, heading back to the house, and I got about a 2-hour drive going up the mountain. There's switchbacks, and some of them switchbacks, you're going 10, 15 mile an hour, and the one I came to, I mean, you had to cut the wheel, made around the corner, and dude sitting right there on the side of the road. I mean, there's no question as to what it was, or uh, I don't know. It's just this great, big, hairy, red-looking dude. His eyes were, I mean, they were fire engine red, and you could see his arm, his hand, uh, long reddish hair. It was I don't know, it was a crazy sight. But I mean, I seen the full creature. It wasn't just a shadowy figure. He was in my headlights, and
I know we played that one last week. I just wanted to kind of watch it again. It's a local guy, first of all. Second of all, who gets tired of Bigfoot stories, right?
Exactly. He's from Bowling Green too, local. I'd like to meet up with him and talk it over. Maybe we can go to that spot where he saw it, do an investigation.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, check out this amazing video of what looks like a flying saucer flying through Bogota, Colombia. The video was captured by a man on an airplane heading back home from the United States to Colombia, when suddenly he was just recording the clouds and this thing appeared out of nowhere. He said that he had no intention of recording a UFO or seen it coming from the distance. He says that this video was absolute luck, and now we want to share it with you guys to ask you guys, what do you think? Check out this amazing UFO sighting in Colombia, guys. Wow. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Don't forget to share, like, and repost, and comment below, guys. I want to know what you think about this.
That's crazy.
Wild.
You know what it kind of looked like? You ever seen, so it's an old movie, it's called Flight of the Navigator.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like, what did they call that? They called it the UFO pearl or UFO clam or clamshell or
Yeah.
something like that. It kind of looked like that. That's kind of wild.
The little kid was driving it around. He flies it all over the place, and it like communicates with this little kid. It's the same movie I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so I guess the movie, so an alien, it's a kind of cool movie because it dives into like UFOs and stuff like that, but it also dives into time travel. And what this movie is that it kind of picks him, and this UFO is going around just collecting samples and different creatures from different planets throughout the universe, and they study it. And it got caught on Earth, and it ends up taking the kid, and then he comes back, and like his little brother's an adult, and really cool movie. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I may be forgetting some things in it. But I mean, it was a fun movie to watch when I was a kid. I'm sure it's still pretty awesome, But it kind of looked like that from that distance. That was pretty neat.
It's almost like the UFO's alive too. It's like it's its own creature, and it's also like a ship.
I mean, looking at it, does it look like it could be anything that maybe you've seen in different things or different reports or talks of what
I,
you may think that may be? It's moving
I
pretty
thought
fast.
something. I thought something might have fell off the airplane, but it was too far out.
Well, yeah, and
Like,
it's going the same. It's going the same. It's going alongside the airplane, so it's not like
yeah,
trailing behind or.
yeah, and it doesn't. It don't look like no weather balloon or no Chinese spy balloon. It looked like a almost like some kind of hunk of metal or something, but it wasn't like dropping out of the sky. It was flying along. It looked like it had its own propulsion system.
Interesting. All right, we got another one coming up.
I have a massive update about the guy I saw with black eyes. I've been tossing this up in the air for a little bit whether I should post the video or not. And I decided to just because I promised a few people that I would keep them updated on what happened. I'm a little confused, I'm not gonna lie. I went into work this morning. My boss told me because Monday is a holiday, he's like, why don't you go ahead and do your Monday route today? That way we don't have to worry about it. Awesome. So I get in my van, I'm making deliveries. I had to stop at that guy's company. I didn't see him in the window. I dropped the part like normal. I got like maybe a mile down the road. I just pulled over because everything in my stomach, in my gut, in my heart was like, you know what? Maybe you should have done this before, but let's Google his name. And I Googled his name. I have more questions now than I did before. Because the first thing that popped up was his face, and underneath it, it said obituary, that he died in October of 23. Was I handing parts to a ghost? I'm 100% sure that I am of right frame of mind. I know I was handing that guy parts. And, you know, I try to do logical thinking, too, like people keep telling me to do. And I'm like, maybe he's got a twin brother. But in what family do you have twins and name them the exact same thing? So that kind of doesn't sit well with me. So that tells me that I handed my parts to somebody that died in October. How is that possible? The next time I see that company, I'm going to walk in and ask them about him. I'm just massively confused, but I wanted to share this because I don't know what to take of this, and I'm hoping for some opinions. I don't want to hear that schizophrenia crap because I know I don't have it. I'm not going to a psychiatrist. I don't need it. I know 110% that I was handing that guy the parts. I don't know. I honestly don't. I'm still not going to give up his name or his address, and now because of respect for his family, I'm at a loss for words. So if anybody knows any ideas, please message me, tell me. I am completely lost right now. I almost quit my job over it. Anyway, like I said, if you have any questions or you want to chime in on what you think it is, please do so. Until the next one, I love you all. God bless.
Well,
Pretty freaky.
I mean, he definitely looked shook up about it.
He didn't seem like the type of guy to be making that up because I mean he had his crucifix on. He seemed like a faithful man, and he told everybody God bless at the end. So I think he really ran into something, but I don't know if it was a ghost or if it was a non-human entity? Because I don't. Me and Carissa, we've talked a few times about the black-eyed children that come up to you and they try to get in your car, or your house, and when they do, you tell them, they're like, "Let me in," and you're like, "No, don't let them in." If you're hitchhiking, if they got black eyes, just keep going, don't stop. But this was a black-eyed adult, so that's kind of a new. I've heard of people with their eyes rolled over completely white, walking around like zombies, but this guy had black eyes.
Yeah, we had Claire was commenting there. Like she said, she thinks he kind of looks pretty 100%, believed in it and stuff like that. Pretty shook up and stuff. So she's kind of with it too.
I saw the comment there. Yeah, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, that would freak anybody out. He's questioning everything now.
He said he thought about quitting his job.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. All right, here's another one, Phil.
Why did the man fall down the well? He couldn't see that well. It's me without glasses. What do you call a person that's had too much to drink? An Uber. Irresponsible. Do you know the story about the chicken that crossed the road? Me neither. I didn't follow it. Gotta look both ways. I hate you. I know. What did the alien say to the flower bed? Take me to your weeder.
Threw that in for a little humor. I'm seeing more and more alien mainstream type jokes, and I think it's just society trying to get us ready so that we're not too freaked out when they actually show up. I think they're pretty funny little jokes, but they're just painting them like everyday people with their aliens.
Hey there, Claire just said something pretty interesting. Like she said, about the many people reporting on spirits and stuff like that, about cross dimensions, which we've talked about cross dimensions before, falling into that Mandela effect, kind of, with the Sworn Project and all that stuff going on. So maybe that's just another instance of that. Maybe it was a die that was, maybe another dimension kind of crossed mirrors, paths, crossed into something new. I mean, I guess you never know with all that kind of stuff because it's everywhere.
Yeah, the Mandela effect is like you'll remember something as a kid, and then you get older, and they're like, "No, that never happened." And we're like, "No, I remember that." And then you talk to your buddies, and they're like, "I remember that too." So yeah.
Here's some more of your favorites.
I'm Casey Carter. I'm from Powell County, Kentucky, Stanton. I'm a pipeline welder, and this is my Bigfoot story. So I was here at Four Guys Campground with the owners, and we were celebrating 4th of July, and we ended up deciding that we were going to go up by the cell phone tower. It's a back road, get up through there, and we traveled up there. Of course, we had some spirits and stuff, and we get up there, and we decided to shoot fireworks off for everybody at the campground to see, because that's the highest point around here. And we get up there, and we shot off the first firework, and when we did, heard a lot of movement down below us, and seen the leaves start shaking and stuff around that area. We were like, what could that possibly be, moving a whole tree around there? And then you heard a loud grunt too whenever it took off, and we looked down there and we seen something. There was no way it could have been a deer or anything like that. This is 4th of July, and it was in the middle of the night, and you see something stand up, and all you seen was two eyes looking directly at you. Wow. And I looked over at my buddy Larry, and I said, "Did you just see that?" And he said, "Absolutely, look at my arms." And you could tell on his arm, his hair was standing up on his arms. And he was like, there's no way. He was like, I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, I know. And we look over at our other buddy, and he just, like this right here, he couldn't even talk. And so we were like, do we go down and tell everybody? Because nobody's going to believe us. And we all decided that, we would go down and tell everybody. And of course, we went down and told people, and they're like, no way, there's no way. And so we didn't really let it get past that until now. I finally have a chance to tell my story. And
so were you scared?
Yeah, and it's crazy because that actually happened right here, and you all were already here. And
so how long ago was this again?
This was back in 2020, right during the middle of COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
And you weren't scared. And so do you go hiking in the forest still?
Oh, I was not scared. It was a great opportunity. Honestly, I never really believed it until I seen it.
Little shout
That's
out
crazy.
To the Kentucky Bigfoot Hunter Society.
Well, he's talking about they were shooting some fireworks and stuff, right? So look, check this out. So this happened when I was a kid. So I'm from Florida, and summers and stuff. A lot of times I'd come up and see my grandfather. So my grandfather lived in Flatwoods, Kentucky. Now this is a very, very small place. Probably never heard of it. It's up by Ashland, so right there on the Ohio River.
The Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah. Well, so we're out shooting these bottle rockets, right? So we're at my grandfather's house. He had his house, then he had two gardens behind it, and then there's this trail of woods. Then you had some houses behind that. So we were shooting these bottle rockets, right? So we hear this the bushes kind of start going really crazy in this little wood area behind the gardens. Starts flipping a little bit. All of a sudden, something jumps out, and it looked like it had tore clothes up, okay? So, of course, we run. Boom, take off. We run in the house. So, as I was running up past the gardens, running back towards the house, there was this tree, and it had this bush that was around the tree. So, I dove under this bush. And this thing ran by. And like I said, it just looked like it was, all I could see was just kind of like ripped up clothes. And it was tall, probably maybe 6 foot tall, 6'3", something like that. And it had taken off around the other side of the house. So I kind of went around the back side of the house and in the house and hit. Now, from a little kid's mind, when I was little, I'm like, that was a fucking wolf man, right? I just saw a werewolf. Yeah. Reality was, I would say, it was probably just, so a guy had lived back there and he had this big Rottweiler. This Rottweiler was always trying to attack everybody. He was a mean motherfucker, right? He was probably just messing with us. That's what I would think now as an adult. But still kind of pretty weird. The ripped up clothes, and it didn't look like a person. It was something big. But yeah, pretty wild. That was in Flatwoods, Kentucky, getting all these kind of Bigfoot stories and stuff in Kentucky.
You think the Rottweiler tore the guy's clothes off?
I think the guy was maybe planning it, and you know what I mean. He wanted to mess with us. But I will say this though, and my brother Ben, to this day, will still tell you, we don't know what it was. When we were little, we thought it was a werewolf, but who knows? That was up in the hills, and I mean this is way up in the hills. And my mom, so she used to tell me when she grew up there, they would talk about Bigfoots, and she says that her dad swears up and down. So outside her bedroom window, they had rabbit cages out there. And she had told us before that they would swear that a Bigfoot would actually come up and kill their rabbits and eat the rabbits. They would find them half eaten. Now, what could get to them in this cage, that's what was weird, because this cage was about 7 feet off the ground.
Damn.
So it wasn't like, a coyote or anything like that was getting to them, but something was getting into them. It would break back the cage and kill these rabbits in this cage. They'd never seen nothing. But my grandfather, he, of course, he's old kind of hillbilly guy. He was just like, it's Bigfoot eating my rabbits, yada, yada, yada. But she had always talked about that. And that was up there in Flatwoods, Kentucky.
Would it tear the cage open or would it just unlatch it?
It would tear it open. Like it would be tore open. And it would be like that chicken wire, that kind of chicken mesh
Yeah,
wire.
yeah. The rabbit wire. and
That's what
stuff.
they had. Yeah, that's what they have on the outside of it. And it would be torn open like a hole in the center of it, like somebody just grabbed it and ripped it open, eat the stomachs out of these rabbits, and leave those dead rabbits in there.
Was it the little square hole wire, like hardware wire, or was it more of the bigger round, like chicken
Like
wire?
the round octagons.
Wow. Yeah, that's, man, still have to be pretty strong to do that. I mean, I
Right,
know
it's pretty tough wire.
raccoons can unlatch stuff, and so can parrots. Parrots and macaws can actually undo a snap swivel with their tongue and their teeth. I've seen them do it. But they can
Well,
get
see,
pretty hot.
I guess that's why they left this raised off the ground, so anything on the ground couldn't get into the cage
Yeah.
or anything like that. But said that it happened 3 or 4 times that summer, and they finally just stopped putting rabbits in it. They were done at that point. But like I said, anytime that I'd ever stayed with my grandfather, and we never saw anything kind of crazy up there.
No footprints around the rabbit pen?
No, not that I know of.
I mean, I know hoot owls would eat a rabbit, but they ain't going to rip chicken wire open like that. I wouldn't think.
Right, I wouldn't think so either. It's pretty wild.
Man.
Hey, check this out. This one's pretty
This is a
interesting.
picture from a game camera. It's a picture of a pitcher in Ohio County of a guy got a Bigfoot on his game camera down in the corn. It's a picture of a picture of a picture. You cannot zoom in on it. It'll pixelate, matrix, etc. I asked him for the SD card. He would not give it up. The guy was a hermit. He wanted to be left alone. He was 80 years old. He wanted to get pictures of a big buck before he died. He said, I don't want a media on my property. I don't want the trespassers on my property. I don't want hunters on my property. But if you knock on his door, he'll let you in his house on a big screen TV. I saw 5 pictures of a Bigfoot on a game camera. This picture, his own family member took a picture with his cell phone of the TV screen, put it online. I grabbed it before they took it down. Unfortunately, the guy's passed away now. I met him a dozen times at his house. I offered him to sign non-disclosure, offered him money for the SD card. I even baked him brownies one time. He would not give up the SD cards. But this, we think, was a Bigfoot in corn, in a corn pile.
Huh.
Wow. That was a pretty crazy.
And that's
picture.
a good thing. The header on that is why we don't find Bigfoot bones, which, like me and you've talked about. That's kind of what I've always said. How are we not finding bones? How are we not finding, these remains and stuff of these Bigfoots? They don't live forever.
Hey, Vinny, I made a boo-boo. The one about the bones is coming up. I accidentally, when I was copying over my footage, I accidentally labeled it backwards.
That's
Sorry.
all good. That's all good,
But
buddy.
it's coming. The Bigfoot bones is coming.
Which one you got that's on there?
It's later down in the stream, the one about the bones. I think it's the same guy. I just accidentally got it labeled wrong.
Well, let's just keep moving on then.
Rock on.
Can you touch my hand? Copy me, touch my hand. Coming. That is ice cold.
That's a good video, man. I like that video.
Pretty compelling. Usually don't see him do that. I've only seen it
No,
happen
and you can
once.
clearly see the outline of where he's at, and you clearly see that that's not just somebody there,
Yeah.
making that one up. That was pretty good.
Usually when they're a real person, they'll be solid with dots. And then when they're not a real person, they'll just be dots. And then sometimes they blink a little bit too.
That is pretty wild.
Yeah, those SLSs get some interesting footage.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to watch, fun to play with. A lot of times they're wild, man.
Scientists at Carnegie Mellon University have developed a method to see through walls using Wi-Fi signals and a neural network, creating 3D maps of human bodies on the other side. Unlike previous efforts that used radio waves to produce low-resolution images, this technology utilizes Wi-Fi signals, which are superior to regular RGB cameras for detecting humans. The system sends a low-powered Wi-Fi signal through a wall, which bounces off objects and people in the room, and then feeds the coordinates of key body points into a deep neural network called dense pose, which creates a 3D image of the human body. Dense pose, developed by researchers from London and Facebook's AI team, establishes a correspondence between 2D images and 3D surface models, allowing for the mapping of Wi-Fi scan results to a 3D image. While the researchers argue that this technology could be a step forward for privacy rights by reducing the need for cameras, others raise concerns about the potential for misuse, as it could enable easy and inexpensive spying through walls. The technology has potential applications in law enforcement and home security, but like many innovations, it also raises ethical questions about privacy and the possibility of abuse. Researchers at Waterloo University have already developed a similar system called YPeep, which uses store-bought drones and inexpensive equipment to see through walls by exploiting a security loophole in Wi-Fi devices. As our personal devices generate increasing amounts of data, the possibility of being monitored through Wi-Fi signals may become a reality we have to adapt to in the future, raising important questions about the balance between technological advancement and individual privacy rights.
That was kind of interesting. Almost like a Wi-Fi SLS type system that they can see through walls. And I was talking to Necroman here. He thinks that they already have that technology on satellites. He thinks they can already see you inside your house with the Wi-Fi technology.
Do you know if anybody's tried to take this into like the paranormal field, or?
I've already reached out to them and asked because I would love to try it for that. Because I've got some stuff I want to try with sound waves too, and ultrasonic transducers and stuff with sound. Doing some bump tests, kind of like ringing a bell. If you ring that bell, you pick that bell up 100 years from now and ring it again, it's going to be the same exact tone unless you change the striker or put a crack in or change the mass of it. It'll be the same. So. Same thing with Wi-Fi.
Wouldn't it change with just any kind of buildup and stuff on the brass, or?
Not too much. It has to be a significant change in the mass or dampen. Like if you set it on a piece of rubber, it won't ring. Or if you put something inside there, if you put rubber inside the bell and the striker hits the rubber, it won't ring either. So that would be dampening. So there's two ways to change the frequency of a vibration. It was either with mass or with a dampening. That's like when your car, when you put shocks on it, it rides a lot smoother. It's dampening out that frequency of the car bouncing, and that shock is taking out that acceleration of G's and the shock waves. But if you have bad shocks on your car and you go drive over a railroad track or a speed bump, it'll bottom out and you get that shock, you get that smack, and then sometimes it'll keep bouncing and oscillating because nothing to dampen it. You change the mass by adding a bunch of stuff in the trunk. There you go. You can change the frequency.
All right. Hey, let's click it to your favorite time. What's your favorite time, Phil?
It's time for more cowbell. More cowbell.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
You never have enough cowbell.
No, I think one of these weeks, one of these shows, you need to actually have it. We'll set it up there on the table and stuff so we can really show that thing off.
Oh, the cowbell? The more cowbell, the paramoon?
Absolutely.
We call it the paranormal paramoon.
Hey, I just want it to go off at a house.
I'd be happy if it goes off anywhere.
You'd be that's like the Stoke time.
Cammy girl already said if it goes off, she's running to the truck.
She's out at that point. That's it. All right, so what you got on here? It looks like a demon story.
Yeah.
Let's check her out.
If you're home alone or laying in bed, you probably want to skip this one. This story was submitted by one of my followers out of Mobile, Alabama. The story will be a little bit longer, but I want to tell her story because it will literally send chills down your spine. One night, laying in bed on her side, under the blankets with her back facing the door. She was very tired and just ready to go to sleep, and that's when she heard something behind her. Hey, hey, hey. Knowing she was home alone, this instantly sent chills down her whole body. And she said without completely turning her whole body over, she rolled over just enough to see the scariest thing that she'd ever seen in her entire life. As she rolled over, she said she seen this man or creature, demon, whatever it was. It was squatted down beside of her bed, and when she rolled over, she was eye level with it, staring face to face. The first thing she noticed was its glowing yellow eyes, and you have to keep in mind she was eye to eye with this thing. She said her bed was actually very low, so this thing had squatted down and now was just inches from her face. Along with those glowing yellow eyes, she said its teeth were very just jagged and nasty looking, and she could see them because it started just doing this maniacal laugh. Its nose was very long and pointy, and its skin was like something out of a horror film. It wasn't like human skin, it was just this something otherworldly looking, and its skin just had bumps on it, but it was also dressed in all black. She took a deep gasp. She tried to scream, but couldn't get nothing out. She was just frozen. So the only thing she knew to do was, she said she jumped up out of bed and grabbed her car keys and just flew out of the house. She drove to a local gas station and just parked there and stayed the rest of the night. She couldn't bring herself to go back home because she knew she was the only person in that house, and this creature, this demon, it was certainly not a person. A couple weeks go by without any kind of incident, and she's just getting brave enough really to go back to bed in her own bedroom. That is until she's laying there one night, just like she had been the night this all happened before, with her back facing the door, laying on her side. Then she heard it again. Hey, hey, hey. She knew immediately it was this creature once more, and she didn't dare turn over. She knew better than to do that. This time, she said she just immediately leaped up out of bed and she was going to run out of the house like she did before. Except when she got up to go down the hall, she noticed this thing wasn't beside of her bed. It was standing at the end of her hallway, and she would have to run by this creature to get outside. This time she could make out a little bit more detail. She said she seen the long, gray, stringy hair, and it was wearing a hat. And later on, she would do research about similar incidents people have had, which you could find. I have videos on the Top Hat Man or the Hat Man. She said, but it wasn't like a top hat. It was more like a golfer's hat, is the way she described it. Since this thing was blocking her exit, she said the only thing she knew to do at that point was just pray. So she just prayed the remainder of the night. Thankfully, prayer works because this thing ended up just vanishing or leaving. But she said that was the beginning of the end for her. She moved out of this house just a couple weeks later, but she had a theory of why this thing may have been there. She was going through a very rough time in her life. She was going through a bad marriage and was just at a really low point. And this is something that she and I discussed too, and I truly believe this. When people are at their lowest, their weakest, most vulnerable points in their life, that's when these demonic entities will try to attack you. This was the most terrifying experience of her life. She said that she could still remember every wrinkle on this thing's face and what it looked like. Thankfully, she did get out of that house and thus far has no other encounters with this creature. But I want to know from you guys if you've ever experienced anything like this, the Hat Man, a Top Hat Man, or maybe it's wearing like a golfer's hat or whatever, because I'm seeing a trend with this thing. I actually had an encounter with it when I was a kid, except it was a top hat. Let me know in the comments. You guys have a great day. God bless.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything about Top Hat Man.
I've heard of Slender Man. I've heard of a Hat Man, but I saw a Shadow Man one time with a ball cap. He had a ball cap on, so I guess you could kind of say it was like a Hat Man, but it was kind of freaky when I saw it. It was like in the daytime, in the afternoon, and like a shadow of a guy just come walk, kind of walking up, and he just stood there and just kind of turned his head a little bit, and I thought, well, somebody's at the damn door, So I get up, I go to the door because it's like a shadow coming through, I think like somebody walked up the door, like, well, why didn't he knock, And I went out there and looked, there's nobody there. I looked all up and down the sidewalk and everywhere, and then I went back, sit down, I thought about it, I'm like, what the hell did I just see? But he was there, with had a ball cap and everything on, and just kind of turned his head and just kind of walked up real slow and didn't say nothing. I like, oh, it's somebody at the door, like the sun, like a reflect the sun coming through the door, is what I thought it was. But when I went out and looked outside, then I thought about it a little bit. I was like, what the hell did I just see? And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. People are like, I don't believe in this stuff. I don't believe in it. Well, yeah, if you've never seen anything, you probably won't believe in it. But once you experience something that's very vivid and real, you can't unsee it. You can't unthink it. You can't unremember it. Then it's like, okay, I can't say I don't believe in paranormal now because I've just seen something. So, yeah.
Well, over the week, so I had talked to a girl I know. She lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and she wants us to come out to her house. She said before she lived in this house, she was, ghost ain't real. I don't believe anything. She said this house has made her 100% believer. You can never convince her it's not haunted. It has a spirit in it. She wants us to check it out. She don't want to tell us the backstory on anything. She
Good.
has all the information, and she's going to show us the information afterwards. She wants to see what we get before to see if it matches up with anything to kind of prove kind of her her feeling of what she's experiencing, and she wants to get that set up and stuff so we can go up there for a night and check that out.
We've actually been on a case where I had one of my necromancer type people. He can hear spirits, and he heard a name, and then a little bit later, a lady had the headphones doing a Estes session. She could only hear what comes through those headphones and through that app. I think we were using Necrophonics app at that time. We tried different things, different apps, different spirit boxes and whatnot, but he got the name, and he was in the other end of the house. He heard it in his head, and when 10 minutes later, she got the same name on her equipment. But the thing is, the people that hadn't owned the house that long, and we couldn't find any history relating to that name. Now, two different women, that same name, died on that same road, but we couldn't tie it to anything with these people or that house. So sometimes that stuff happens, but we actually got a correlation between a psychic and equipment, same name, but don't know. Maybe it was something tied to that property way back when, before the house was built, or it could be something from the future trying to communicate too. I'm starting to think that this stuff isn't just talking to something that's dead in the past. We may be talking to something from the future too.
Hey, don't get me on time travel, Phil. I love it.
Portals.
All right.
Ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely.
This one's crazy, so buckle up. I celebrated a birthday a couple weeks ago, and it's the first birthday that my dad has not been here for, and that was really hard, but it is what it is. And my mom got me a little Build-A-Bear with his voice in it. Like, the little clicky thing was his voice. And it was so sweet and adorable, and so we're all sitting at the kitchen table having a lovely time, listening to his voice, and all of a sudden, one of his toy fire trucks goes off in the other room. Never once have I heard this thing go off in my life. The siren goes off, the lights go off. Like, I didn't know they had batteries in them. My dad never turned them on like that. So it was so creepy. And, like, we weren't talking at the table. Like, we were just sitting there, like, listening to his voice. And then all of a sudden, his thing lights up from the other room. And we recorded it all. So, check it out. And let me know what you think.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bricky. Happy birthday to you. Make a wish. Make a wish. Make a wish. And many more. Right. Whoa. Jackie, can you turn the light on? Yes. All right. Yeah. I did. Did you? Okay. Yes. Present time. Where's your present? I'm still delivering it. I'm sure, Jackie, you? I'm thinking. Oh, for God! I don't want to know. I don't want to know the details. All right, here, honey. The girl's got to have a present. This is from me. Yeah. Did you know? How cute. Should we cut the cake? Yeah. Jackie, you want to get a knife? Press its pause, sweetie. Shut up. No way. What? That is not worked. That is not worked.
I just missed a call from my dad. He's been gone for like I just heard his voice one more time.
pretty wild. She had her dead dad's father on the teddy bear recording. The mom did that as a nice remembrance gift for her, and then all of a sudden the little truck started up that were his. They didn't even know they had batteries in them at the same time. That was pretty wild.
Well, was she just like randomly videoing herself that night?
Well, the first
Where she
part
was
was
laying
like
in the bed? Because I'm like, why was you just randomly videoing yourself when the voice, when the bear went off?
yeah, like the bear went off at the beginning of the birthday party, and then the trucks went off at the same time. But the other video, I wasn't really sure what was going on there. At first, I thought they got orbs on a security camera or something, but there's some other stuff going on there. Kind of.
Right, it was like randomly the bear went off while she was asleep and it woke her up and then the doors open. But I'm like, why
Yeah.
was you recording yourself just random sleeping? You know what I mean?
Unless she's got a just surveillance camera going all the time. I don't know. Some people have those cameras just to monitor their kids and for security, or if like the little babies, start waking up in the middle of the night, or like a baby monitor type thing. But that kid was a little old for that, I would say.
Yeah, it seemed that way. We do need a call in. Somebody needs to call in and tell us some stuff. So a couple weeks ago, you was at Perryville. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah,
pictures on here.
Perryville was one of the bloodiest battles that they had in Kentucky, and basically that battle was going to decide whether Kentucky was going to go Union and Confederate. And there's a couple pictures I posted up by a cannon. We had we got a REM pod, which is like an EMF device that has a little red light on it, and then we have some motion lights. And one of my investigators was out there by the cannon, and he set off the motion lights, which isn't that big a deal, but we got some kind of a weird blue-looking thing in front of the cannon. I don't know what it is, but usually if I get a lens flare, it'll be red if it's a red light. It'll be white if it's a white light. But sometimes iPhones will have a little green, to them. But this was blue, and it's kind of weird looking. It looks like a mask or a couple pair of eyeballs or a pair of lungs or something, but
Look like a skull.
like a skull. Yeah, it looked kind of like a skull. So it was just something interesting. We were going through our pictures. Yeah, that's the picture there, and right in front of the cannon, that blue looking thing. The white lights are the motion lights, and then the red thing is a REM pod. I think the little chartreuse thing in front of the REM pod, I think it's a lightning bug because it's moving. You can see if a light's moving, it'll leave little streaks like that. And then if it's not moving, usually you don't get a trail or anything like that. It's just pretty much stationary. But I had about 20 pictures of that cannon, and that's the only one that had the blue little anomaly like that.
So was the REM pod going off when that light was there? Is that what the red light is? It was actually activated?
No, it stays red all the time, so you know it's active. The white lights are what the other investigator set off. But then we got that blue light. We're like, if you look at the bottom of the cannon barrel, you can see the reflection of the red. But I don't think there's any of that blue reflection. So it's like it was just there in space. And then
But you couldn't see it in life. It was just in the picture?
Yeah, you can see the white light reflecting off the wagon wheel on the cannon. You can see the white light reflecting off the ground and all behind him and everywhere. But then this thing's just kind of like got its own little thing, light source going on. It's a different color. It's blue. It's not red. It's not white. It's like this blue. Looks kind of like a weird skull looking thing floating there. We just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it definitely looks different. Anything else happen while you guys were out there?
We had our necro man who's sitting here next to me, and when we first rolled up, he got the name. Was it Bragg? General Bragg, and we're like, okay. And I hadn't done a lot of research on it. It's been a year since I was up there. I'm like, was there a General Bragg? And we go inside, and then I asked the guy running the gift shop, which he'll actually be on the video here in a little bit. He's a pretty good source of knowledge. He's been there for a long time. But he said General Bragg was the most hated general on the whole war. I'm like, what? And I look over, there's a book on the wall, General Bragg. And then when we walk in to the museum, there's a whole display on General Bragg. It's like the first thing you come to. So we thought that was pretty interesting. And then we got to that old home site. There was you heard moaning over there, right?
A lot of moaning and groaning.
Moaning and groaning. And that particular house, they were using it as a temporary hospital, field hospital. And they had a lot of wounded guys in there. And the cannon hit the house and just completely blew it up and demolished it. And I think over 100 souls were lost in that one cannon blast. So
that sign I read, I seen it, and then I told you, and when we pulled up, it was in front of Dixieville.
Yeah. Oh, you saw the sign before we got to it?
Yeah.
Like in your head?
Yeah.
Necroman picks up signs too.
Museum.
And then we went to the museum and there was a sign. Then we got to that old house and there was another sign. And he had seen the sign, like kind of premonition of it. We went on another trip one time and he kept telling me this guy's name, kept trying to say hi to me. And since he talks to dead people, I thought it was a dead person. And like 3 different times he kept saying, "Hey man, this guy named Ernie wants to say hi to you." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know if I know what Ernie." And then like we're driving, we got up by Horse Cave, and he's like, "Hey man, Ernie again." I'm like, "Okay." And I'm trying to think, well, who the hell is this Ernie? Then we get almost to Hell's Gate Cemetery, and he says, "Hey, Ernie just wants to say hi." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking he's just talking to some dead person, random, whatever. Okay. And I'm trying to think of my past. Who the hell is Ernie? We pull up to Casey Cemetery, Hell's Gate. There's a black truck. And this gentleman and his wife come out of the cemetery. And he walks up. He introduces himself. He goes, "Hello, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Ernie Pack with Pac-Man Paranormal." And I'm like,
"You've never met these people before?"
"No." And I'm like, "What did you say your name was?" He's like, "Ernie." I'm like, "Okay, I'm Phil, the Philbilly from Supernatural Investigations Squad, I'm out of Bowling Green." I'm sitting here going, "Holy shit, I've heard Ernie all the way here in the truck." And I'm like, "Where's he coming up with this shit?" And I'm thinking he's just coming up with random bullshit. And then we get there, and this guy, there he is, bigger than shit. And I've never told Ernie that story, but he just got it now. But that's when I first met Ernie Pack. And all the way there, my man, Mr. Necroman, he was picking it up. So I think he picks up on not just dead people, but he has intuition, and he'll pick up different things. So Perryville, he got General Bragg, and we also got the moaning at that house structure. So those were 2 things that we did pick up.
I got when I went over to where the cemetery was. I went over to the sign that's there. And I heard Lincoln, and then I looked down and there was Abraham Lincoln.
So he went over to the mass grave where it was like 2,000 Confederates buried, and he heard the name Lincoln. Then he walked over, was looking all around, and he was like, "Hey, there's a sign over here, and by God, there's Abe Lincoln right here on this sign." And he just heard the name Lincoln. So stuff like that happens all the time. I can't explain it. I don't even completely understand it. I'm just going to accept it and roll with it. That is his gift.
We know anytime you talk about Casey, though, we got to talk about the nun.
Oh yeah.
Anybody out there that hasn't seen the that picture, we'll bring that up.
See, I think it looks like a nun for sure. You can even see like her has like a necklace or something on, like a rosary or whatever, and then like her habit and her everything. We got that picture. It was just like a little funny looking speck thing behind an upright tombstone, kind of like a monolithic type tombstone. And I'm like, "What is that?" Vinny's like, "I think it's a nun." I'm like, "No way." And then I magnified it up, and I still think it looks like a nun. And then right down the road was Bethlehem Academy, about a mile down the road, because we were like, "Why the hell are we seeing nuns in our pictures?" And we didn't realize.
What about when we was over in the trailer park, abandoned trailer park? And they took a picture and
Yeah, that was something we tried to do. So I'm always looking for new places to investigate, and we went to an abandoned trailer park. Because I'm thinking, what kind of evidence you got in an abandoned trailer park? Think about over the years on a trailer park, it's been there 20, 30 years, all the crazy stuff that happens in trailer parks. All the hijinks and shenanigans, and people living that close together, just bound to be some paranormal activity. People's probably passed away there, different things will happen. So we went to the abandoned trailer park before. Now we're going to make it into a housing development, and hopefully everything calms down if they're going to build houses there. But we got a picture. You thought you were talking to a little boy named Tommy riding his bicycle. He would ride his bicycle up down the road, and he was like talking to some little kid named Tommy. And we took a picture right over Mr. Necro Man's back, and it looks like a smiley face in the picture. I'll have to post it one of these upcoming episodes when I can find it. But
the K2 meter was going.
Yeah, the K2 meter was going off right in that spot, and I was checking. Is there electric? Is there underground powers or utilities? Is there some kind of Wi-Fi, anything? And we're just out. They've already ripped all the trailers out. They bulldozed a lot of the pads. It's just, from what we can tell, there's nothing there. And then you put the K2 meter down on the ground, and it would do nothing. And you raise it up about 4 feet, right about kid level, and it would go off. And then you would raise it up in the air, and it would quit. And then you would go about 6 feet either way direction in that road, and there was nothing. But he was picking up on a little boy named Tommy.
Hey, EJ's got us a video here for Perryville.
Yes, sir.
Abraham Lincoln once made the statement. He said, "I'd like to have God on my side, but I must have Kentucky before I fear I lose Kentucky, I will lose Missouri and Maryland." Perryville literally would decide which way this state would go in the Civil War, either for the Union or the Confederacy. So this was an extremely important battle. It was only lasted 5 hours, and we had 8,000 casualties.
Right. Which makes it even bloodier than the ones that everybody knows much better.
We had 1 man fall every 13 minutes.
That's a lot. So there y'all, a little bit of history on Perryville Battlefield. They've done an amazing job here. I could you this is a little gift shop. Got some amazing books here. And you're going to see the live investigation here tonight. So join us. We'll be going live around 9 o'clock.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that guy's great. If you ever go to Perryville, everyone there's very friendly, very helpful. They're very knowledgeable. They know all the history of that whole place, and they're pretty cool. They'll answer any questions. They've actually got some actual weapons there, like rifles and stuff. You can actually hold them, touch them, and pick them up. You can try on some of the hats and uniforms. So it's very interactive. I recommend it to anybody who's a history buff or Civil War buff. Perryville's one of those places you want to hit on your bucket list trip of battlefields. It's not as well known and famous as some of the other ones, but it's well preserved, well taken care of, and just overall good time. And you can investigate it. I think it's $250. You have to get a permit from the state. And sign waivers, and you're not allowed to do any metal detecting. That's an automatic trip to prison. So, because there are still soldiers out there, and their artifacts, they're wherever they fell, some of their stuff is still in the ground there. So it's definitely hallowed ground out there.
Well, Cindy here, one of our viewers, so she said that she lives in the trailer park that she lives into, that she has actually seen. So it's right next to a 200-acre plantation.
Wow.
During the Civil War, and that she's actually seen Confederate soldiers there in that place. So that would be awesome. What area is that in?
I'm not sure, but I know around Springfield, Kentucky, we talked to two elderly ladies, and they said it's nothing to see a soldier walk by about once a month. Just walks right by their kitchen window, and they're just kind of used to it. I'm like, really? You're seeing a Civil War. She goes, well, the road that went up to Perryville and back down through Springfield went right by her house. And she said, there must still be marching by.
And she's in Woodford, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's another.
Virginia's always got a kind of like a lot of stories and stuff going on there and stuff like that. Like wasn't that the whole like Croatoan, Roanoke, and everything's up there?
Well, I know West Virginia is where the Mothman is. Virginia, they have a lot of Appalachian stories. Like, it might be another video coming up if it's on this reel, but there's a reason you keep your windows and your door and your curtains shut if you live in Appalachia up that way.
Yeah, that is like the Roanoke story and everything, isn't it? Where all the settlers disappeared overnight.
That was Ocracoke Island, I think. That's off the Outer Banks of Carolina, I think. If we're getting Roanoke and Ocracoke confused.
I could be getting it confused.
But there might have been something happened up there, Roanoke too. Virginia's got a lot of Bigfoot stories too. They even have
something about Croatoan or something, which was like a Babylon name. I don't know. I'd have to look into it again. I know it's something revolving around that.
That sounds like Ocracoke Island. They all just disappeared. That's I think that's Outer Banks.
So what? They were just there and then disappeared and gone the next morning.
Yeah, I think it's off North Carolina coast. You got Kitty Hawk, you got Kill Devil Island, you got Hatteras, and all that stuff. All that stuff's out there. That like little sand islands out there off the coast of the Atlantic there. And I'm trying to think the name of that word. It was a weird name carved into the tree, and that was the only thing they found. That's an unsolved mystery from hundreds of years ago. The whole island of people just vanished.
Okay, Dee just said that Roanoke is the missing settlement.
Okay.
I knew there was some story about Roanoke, and it was the whole everybody. It was all gone, and all they had left or something was, what was it, Croatian or something carved into a tree or something, and that's all that was left. He said North Carolina Island.
Yeah, Ocracoke, I think.
Yeah, if you guys got some info on it, call in, talk to us about it.
That other place I went to by myself over Fort
Donaldson,
over in Dover, Tennessee.
Necroman went to a Fort Donaldson in Dover, Tennessee. And not only does he hear things talking to him, he's kind of and he's intuitive. He also sometimes is empathic. He can feel their pain. So, wasn't it a guy got stabbed with a bayonet?
Yeah.
And you could feel it in your.
I could feel it. I had to leave. But there was a 15-year-old that packed gunpowder and stuff for him, and he got shot, killed.
So he had two spirits come up to him. One got killed from packing the gunpowder and went off, and another one got stabbed with a bayonet. That's when he had to leave because he could feel it. But I've been with him to houses where we'll go into somebody's bedroom or something. He starts getting a split headache and has to get out. Just sometimes paranormal things are intense. You also got scratched a couple times. That you had that thing screaming at you in your ear. He can't hear very well. He's actually legally deaf in one ear. So he hears stuff. We know he's hearing it with his mind because he can't hear. I got to yell at him sometimes. But he had something twice at that mine. We were at a Mason mine over there east of London, Kentucky, where it's still. And if you ever go there, stay the hell out of the train tunnel. There, it's an active train track right next to the mine. You don't want to go in the train tunnel because there are trains coming through, and by the time you hear the train horn, it's too late. They're on you that quick. So I don't recommend going to the train tunnel or going on any train trestle. It's like the Pope Lake Trestle. There's been over 20 people die there. So if you ever want to go do some investigating, yeah, be careful. Watch out for Goat Man on trains. And but he had twice where something screamed, like literally screamed at him in his ear.
All right, I kind of got a question for you, buddy. So do things just randomly come to you, or is there times that you can like home in on something and kind of get something, or is it just a random deal, or do you have any kind of control over it, or? can you like sense into somebody in particular?
He wants to know if you have any control over it, or does stuff just randomly come to you? Can you hone in on stuff? Can you go actively try to seek things, or does it just come to you?
Yeah, I can hone in on things, and I can actually, uh, tune in to see if I can hear anything. When I like to go, when we get to a place, I like to go away from everybody to see if I can tune in to something. And if I do, I come back and I tell them. But
sometimes he has to get away for it to tune in. Like if other people and other stuff's around, it kind of interferes with his gift, and he'll go off. And if he hears something, then he'll tell us what it is. Sometimes it's something really cool, or they have a nice positive message. And sometimes it's very negative. Just depends on what comes through. But he can tune it in and tune it out. I know some people that hear things talking to them, they can't tune it out without taking drugs, getting high, getting drunk, being on medication. Some people, that sometimes they're diagnosed with different mental illnesses, schizophrenia, whatever, and sometimes they actually do have a gift. They just can't tune it out. I don't know if it's something you learn or you're born with, but he can tune it in and out. Like we're here talking, he can tune it out, or he can turn it on and see if anything comes through, that kind of thing.
When I was 12 years old, I couldn't turn it off.
So
as I grew,
when you were 12, you couldn't turn it off.
As I grew up, I learned to control it, to turn it off, turn it on.
So we got a question for you. So they want to know, so do you have a spirit guide or anything kind of going with you with that, or?
They want to know if you have a spirit guide, or does anything guide you and talk to you, a spirit guide, or are you just kind of like a free agent?
I don't know. I guess I'm free agent. I guess
you don't have a certain guide, like his name and he talks to you all the time, or no, nothing like that. He just hears.
So if you're talking to somebody or something, so I don't know if you've had connections with people or if anybody's ever asked you to home in on somebody for them. Have you ever done anything like that, or?
Like say if I wanted you to home in on my grandma, or somebody wanted you to home in on their dead sister or something, can you do that, or only if or they just have to come to you?
No, I can't. I had to. I just can't home in on anybody that just random. But I have had some to speak to me, like one night Marilyn Monroe. She was one of my favorite actors, and she spoke to me.
What'd she say?
We was talking, and she just said I was a sweet guy that I could hear. And she says, I'm happy that you can hear me. And, my girlfriend, she got went crazy because she's a Marilyn Monroe fan too.
So if you're, like, somebody says, hey, I really want to get, how they have like Teresa Caputo and all the different psychic people on TV, like, I'm trying to get in touch with a loved one. I'm trying to get in touch with my mother or whatever. You can't do that. It's just if they want to come through, they come through. And it's kind of like they just come like pester you, right? Like, hey, I'm so-and-so's mom and I just want to tell them, hey.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, I'm a free agent, and it just
kind of like a channeling beacon.
Sometimes.
He's more of like a clairvoyant. So a channeler, I've seen like their faces morph and everything. He don't do that. He'll just say, hey, talk to me. Sometimes he just gets one word answers. It'll be like, sometimes we'll pull up to a place and it'll say leave. And then we'll ask, or he'll ask like, well, what do you want this place? And then they'll tell us none of your business. And then he even had one laughing at him after he heard it told us none of your business, told us to leave, and then it started laughing at us. And then we're like, we're not leaving. We're here to get answers and help these people. Because a lot of people with paranormal things going on in their house, it's very real to them. And sometimes it's very terrifying. Even if it's something that's logically explained, before you go through the investigation, explain to them, look, it's a squeaky door, or your air conditioner's kicking on, it's blowing a tree against your house, or something like that. Before you explain all that or find a logical reason, they don't. A lot of people don't know to check all that stuff, and they're just completely freaked out. And that's why we like to go help people. Sometimes it's just nothing, and we feel pretty good about that. But then sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, okay, who or what are we really dealing with here? And that's what gets into the paranormal.
I guess you've done it, and I've done it. It's this right here recently. I've walked in a room, and it'd be ice cold, an ice cold feeling, and your hair standing up on you. That
Yeah, I'm sure our viewers have had that happen. You walk in a room, and it just feels ice cold, and your hair will stand up on your arm. And he's had that happen. He actually had that happen last night, and we've got a temperature gun. We can go around and take temperatures, and I've felt cold where probably the freakiest one to me was at Ra's Opera House, and I know our other team, EJ, was with me, and it was like you were being lowered into like a, best way I can describe it is like a cooler or a bucket of ice, and you're just getting slowly lowered, like you feel it in your feet. Then it went up to your ankles and went up your legs and about your knees, and it's like you're getting lowered into this bucket of ice water. You can just feel it progressively coming up both legs, and then it just stops. And I'm kind of glad it stopped before it went any further. But that was one of the freakiest thing I ever experienced. And at the time, I had an SLS camera going, and we seen looked like a stick figure in a chair sitting there, And then he got off the chair, and we're like, "Where did he go?" And that's when we start feeling the ice, like you're being lowered into ice water. I don't know if any other investigators or people that have experienced that. I've had the static on my arm. I felt cold chill here and there, but this was probably the most intense temperature effect I've ever encountered.
sometimes I lead them to the light. I'll ask them if they see the light, and they'll say, "Yeah," and I say, "Go to it."
So like they're a lost soul, or they're wandering the earth and they don't know what they need help with you to like help them go where they need to go.
I just tell them which way to go.
So he normally tells them to go to the light, and then after they go to the light, then what? Anything?
I don't hear them no more.
So he don't hear them no more. Once they go to the light, he don't hear nothing. He thinks they've went to rest, went to eternal rest, or went to heaven, or wherever they go. We don't 100% know. Some people claim to have been there and come back, but when Mr. Necroman talks to them and they go to the light, he doesn't hear them anymore. Never hears from them again. They're gone.
Sometimes Chinese people cut up with you too.
Yeah, it'd probably be some good content for Aaron's show, Lighter Side of Paranormal, but we were actually in a cave, and we didn't know what was going on. We're like way back in this cave, and there had been an explosion, and some miners had died, and I'm just asking, was anybody here, whatever, and he says they're Chinese. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, they're telling me they're Chinese, and so I don't really know anything Chinese, so I start whistling and stuff, and then next thing I know, I have this figure pop up on my SLS, and he looks like he's sitting Indian style, just hovering there like a Buddha, and it finally just took off and hit like a wacky wall walker. It just splatted on the wall, then it like crawled up the cave. And I'm sitting there with my camera on a tripod. I'm not even moving, and this thing pops up, and it's hovering, and it jumps over and goes up the wall. I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then, so I'm like making a joke. I'm like, hey, man, you guys cooking some cats, because, supposedly they eat different species of creatures that we probably wouldn't eat because we consider them pets. But anyway, I'm making a joke. And they said, no, we don't eat cats. We eat you, fat boy. And then to say something else like,
they call you fat boy?
Yeah, they call me fat boy. And he's telling me this.
No respect even from the dead.
No, and he's hearing it in his head.
You're like Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, he's hearing it in his head, And I'm like, what? And he goes, they said they blew up in a tunnel. The dynamite went off too early. Wasn't that what it was? Or
2,500.
2,500 what he was saying died. And the
2,500
dynamite went
people?
off. Yeah. And they're telling him what tunnel it was and the tunnel number and all this stuff. And then they finally said, you go, fat boy. We stay here. And I was like, okay. I'm glad they're not saying they're coming with us. But yeah, that was one of the funny things that happened. He's laughing and he's telling me what they're saying, and I'm like joking with these people, whatever I can't see, and he's joking back with me based on what he's hearing in his head. The whole necromancy thing it's interesting.
Caves, mines, all that stuff kind of gets crazy, and so much stories and stuff in Kentucky about the caves. Because you got like the goblins, the Kentucky goblins, going through the caves and stuff. That goes through what is that, Hellier, Kentucky?
Yeah.
And that same cave or the same cave system, that's all what's going up through Mammoth Cave, and it also goes up through Virginia too, the same cave system, because there was some links and stuff with the Kentucky goblins and stuff like that with Mothman. Those stories kind of tied in together and stuff with sightings and experiences people in Kentucky saw.
A lot of that all ties back into the curse that Chief Cornstalk put over the Indians called it the Kentucky lands. Is that how they pronounced it back then? And if you read some of those frontiersman books, that's how they explained how they talked to the natives back then. And Chief Cornstalk was pretty cool. He was over all of Kentucky, and he would trade with the white folks and everything. And then one day they just went in and killed him for no reason. And while he was still alive, he said, "You have killed me for no reason, and I will put a curse on this land." And that was right around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is where you have your Mothman. And they had the Silver Bridge collapse and all the different things that happened around there. And right around November is that time of year is when the curse supposedly happens. And what have we had the last few years around November? We've had tornadoes, different things. And if you look through the history of Kentucky, some of the worst ones were in November.
Never underestimate what you can't see.
Exactly. But the whole goblin, I'm not sure about the goblins, but I know the whole Chief Cornstalk curse was that whole area. It was all Kentucky.
Well, the whole Kentucky goblins, so they actually did that show on it. I believe it's on Amazon Prime called Hellier. And it was really interesting. I really was into it for the first few episodes. I kind of got lost later in it. But how it kind of all kicked off was this guy had reached out to a paranormal group, and he was like, "Hey, I'm seeing these goblins, these little things out in the yard. I'm haunted by them. They're every night. They're messing with us." So he wanted help for it. So as he reached out for help for it, the team had got together. They went out. So as they were just talking to kind of the town folk and stuff around that area, they were kind of hostile. Like they were like, you don't belong here. We don't want you here. Watch who you talk to. I don't know. I've never been to Hellier. I know that's that eastern side of Kentucky. I know I've been to Edmonton and places over that way. It is they're kind of to their own people there, don't really like outsiders. So the emails just stopped. They found the house, called it kind of quits, went back, and then as going through more and more, then the email started up again, and then it started tying into Mothman and all these different things, and it was all open-ended. They could never really get a lock on anything. But after I'd watch it, so I got kind of curious about it, so I was reading more into these Kentucky goblins and stuff like that, and all the way back into like the early 70s, people was talking about seeing these goblins in the yard. These figures and stuff would come out and do this stuff, and they would be running into it all the time. So, I guess it's pretty big. Might be cool to head up there and kind of check it out one day and check out some of those caves. Maybe we can come across a goblin or two.
Yeah, caves are a whole different animal. And it's just, it's hard to explain to you unless you've been in a cave and turn the light off and hold your hand in front of your face and you can't see it. It's that dark. And then the thing that amazes me is bats. They'll just be flying around and they're like, no big deal. Bats will come by. Bats aren't really going to hurt you. Just try to remain calm. Don't freak out. But It is a little
Nope, I don't
unnerving
like
when
them.
their little wings
I
come
don't
by
like
and
them,
hit your
Phil.
cheeks.
I see bats, I'm running.
You won't see them in the cave. When
If
they
I
can't
hear
see
them,
you,
if I suspect them, I'm out of there, man. I don't like bats.
they use radar. Most time they're just asleep up on the top of the cave. They usually don't bother you, but
So you could send me in any haunted house, any haunted location. It's fine. I'll go there by myself. No problem at all. I'm not messing with bats. They're
Rockville,
creepy, man.
Indiana. A lot of people want to go to Rockville, Indiana, to the big sanatorium, and I'm here to tell you, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but you probably ought to know before you go there. That place is full of bats, and it's the
No,
weirdest
that's
thing.
bat country. It's no good.
And they don't like those LED flashlights. You turn them on, there's some kind of weird frequency they make, and the bats fly around go crazy. But you talk about weird. You're in a hospital, an abandoned hospital, and you're standing there in this room, like a waiting room, whatever, and you look in the hallway and you see these like 5 or 10 bats just go pop, 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 and they go flying by. And then they turn around and there they come back, pop, pop, pop. And they go up down the hallway 3 or 4 times before they go on out the window, but it's pretty freaky. There was actually a lady there, and there were 2 ladies from Michigan, I think, and the night I went, and the one lady was actually really scared of the bats, and she bent over to keep the bat from hitting her. She thought the bat would hit her, but bats, they fly just fine in pitch dark. They use radar. They don't even have to see where they're going. They use radar, and so the bat wasn't going to hit her, but she bent over to let the bat go by, and when she did, something come up behind her and shoved her down, and she turned around. There's nobody there, nothing there, and they were up on one of the upper floors, like 3rd, 4th floor, something like that. And it's about 2, 3 in the morning, and these 2 ladies, they come hauling ass down there, and they're like, "We're done. This is our last investigation we ever go on. Edna got knocked on her ass, and we're gonna pack our shit. We're going home. We're never coming back." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, We're tapping out. We're not staying long enough to get the T-shirt. We're leaving." So me and another guy were like, "What floor were you on? What room? Where were you?" So we went running up there, and trying to see if we could, try to get evidence of whatever it was that knocked her down. But this lady was very shaken, terrified. I mean, they were like, "Look, we're going straight home." And so, yes, stuff like that happens sometimes. I've talked to other people where stuff happened to them, and they're like, that ended their whole career, or their whole interest or hobby in paranormal. If something like that happens, sometimes people get pretty shook up, and they're done at that point. But
Well, on a side note, I do agree with one of our peeps watching here. I agree with her. I believe moonshine definitely in a factor in the Kentucky Goblin sightings.
could be. Hey, Mr. Necro, have you ever been like drunk and really have some weird experience with stuff talking to you, or no, about the same?
I would say for something like that to happen, you'd have to be pretty clear minded and ready if you're able to home in, wouldn't you? Like you couldn't.
He says he's only been drunk once or twice his whole life. So, but he said no, he just goes on every day, like everybody else. But he can tune it out if he needs to. But
So has anything happened? Anything happened while we've been on the show tonight? Like we've been talking? Did you hear anything?
Yeah, you hear anything tonight? Have you opened up your gift to see if anybody's talking to you tonight? We want to hear it. If you got anything, live action, man. No pressure, Mr. Necro.
I'm trying to open up.
He has to open up for something to come through.
Do we need to be quiet?
I don't know. Do we need to be quiet for that, or?
I can't.
Maybe dim the lights, Phil. Get the mood right.
No.
it's hard for me to open up.
No. He's having a little trouble tonight.
But I will say, Marilyn said, tell everybody hi.
Marilyn Monroe said, tell everybody hi.
I did hear
Marilyn says hi.
Marilyn says hi. Didn't you say when you try to go to sleep, it's like all these people?
And I can't pass the cemetery without somebody wanting me to stop.
You said a cemetery?
He can't go by a cemetery without somebody asking him to stop. And when he tries to go to sleep at night, it's like 1,000 people trying to tell him good night. They're always like, good night, good night, good night. And sometimes he just has to tune it out so he can sleep.
I have to.
So what's your process for tuning it out, buddy? What do you do?
How do you do it? How do you tune them out? How do you tune them out? How do you do it?
I just ignore it and just I shut my hearing off where I can't hear them. I fall asleep. Shit.
All right.
He shuts down his hearing. Then you don't have to hear.
So when you guys you said you went to Casey and stuff, which you know one of my favorite places to go. I love it up there. Did you hear any? You went by the tree? I'm sure.
He heard a baby crying. When we got on the road before we ran into Ernie, he heard a baby crying while we're driving up the road, and then somebody go like shh, tell the baby to be quiet, and then it just. Remember that?
And the guy that was on the road.
Oh, the railroad track. That one, I was like, what? So we're driving down the road.
Is this on the way to Casey's?
This is all on the same trip to Casey where we heard Ernie coming through. And then we get up to this old railroad track on a one-lane road. And we get almost up the railroad track. And he goes, hey, somebody's yelling for help. And I stop the truck. And I'm like, what? You hear somebody yelling? Or, is there a wreck? What the hell's going on? And he goes, no, he's laying over there. He's been yelling for help. And I'm like, who's laying over there? And he goes, oh, no, he's already passed on. He's just still laying there. I'm like, okay, let me guess. Hit by a train? We're on train track? And he's like, yep. He goes, train hit him, and he's still laying there. He's asking for help. And he told him to go to the light. And so the
box truck.
Yeah, that was the other thing. So we get about a half mile down the road, and he just randomly says, box truck. And I'm like, what? And he's like, box truck. And I'm looking, I see no damn box truck. What the hell, like a rider truck or what? And he's like, the guy on the railroad tracks that got hit. And I'm like, the one laying back there still yelling for help? He's like, yeah. He's like, he was driving a box truck. I was like, what the hell? So we get done with our investigation. It's between 3 and 4 in the morning. We're heading back. I forgot all about that shit. I mean, it had been a long night. We had all kind of stuff going on. We're coming back. I forgot. We get up that road tracks. And he's like, I think he's in the back seat asleep or something. He's like, hey. I'm like, what? He's like, that guy, he's still there laying there yelling for help. I'm like, and then, we stop the truck. He tells the guy to go to the light. We don't know if he ever did. We told him twice that he might still be laying there. If we ever drive back through there, we'll have to see if he comes through. But he was driving the box truck apparently. But we can't,
We know we got a lot of we got some pretty big hits, and it was a good time at Pilot Knob when we went that night.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to get him out there, let him check out Pilot Knob.
Absolutely. He did get a Mary Elizabeth when we were at the KC, and he said her stone's right up there on the right. We get up there, and I think it was like a Mary Ellen or Mary, but he was calling her Mary Elizabeth. And then, he told her, why don't you go to the light? And wasn't she looking for her little brother? Something like that. She couldn't go till she found him. Remember the Mary Elizabeth?
Yeah. Some of the women, they are looking for the loved one. So I don't know. Hopefully they find her. They take her with them. But
she couldn't go until she found her little brother. And then
Cindy says Mary Elizabeth was her mom's name.
Well, this was Casey Cemetery, where we were at when he got that. And then didn't you say every once in a while some woman will come through and say if I was still alive I would date you or something, or you get hit on once in a while by these.
Oh yeah.
Hey! Even in the afterlife, they're still looking for love, baby.
My girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend, her friend died with the aneurysm. She was taking a shower, and they found her in the floor dead. And I was taking a shower, and I heard, "Man," she said, "I wish I was alive." And I go, "What?" And she said, "I said you are alive." I thought it was a girlfriend talking. And then I went in the living room where she was at, and I said, "Your friend just told me that she was alive. She'd give you a run for your money."
Woo!
So she passed away from an aneurysm, and you're in the shower, and she comes in there talking to you.
Yeah.
Man.
And I'm going, okay.
Some of the stuff that happens to Necro, man, is pretty wild.
You stand in the shower like you're going, okay.
Yeah, he had to cover up his privates on that one because he knew they were watching him. You know, everybody says, "Oh, you know, our loved ones could come and watch us. You know, they can come back and see us." I'm like, man, I hope they don't see me when I'm, you know, going to the bathroom. There's nothing here to see.
Some granny going, "I've seen one of them before."
Well, that just come through, or that's something you heard before.
Yeah, just a joke.
Yeah, the grandma come through and said she's seen one of them before.
Grandma, but I've seen one of them before. And don't look at mine.
Hey, what was that joke about the mummy?
The mummy?
Yeah.
What kind of music does the mummy like?
Yeah, what kind of music does a mummy like?
Rap.
Rap music.
Busting out the dad jokes.
Yeah.
I got Mother Nature calling.
Oh, okay. I think Necro Man needs to go take a little break for a minute if you got another video you want to roll.
Hey, I tell you what, we can always roll every single time.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Come right back.
Oh, okay.
So you know what? I'm just thinking. You know what would be?
Take a break, Necro Man. Had to take a break.
Hey, absolutely. You know, it'd be awesome. See, we need to get somebody on here that can maybe for say communicate with something out there, whatever, and do this live. Like do this with us. You know, I always said I wanted to bring on. I want to bring on somebody and stuff. Bust some tarot readings on us. Really dive into a lot of crazy stuff, and let's get some stuff rolling.
I've got a Reiki master who is on our team, and she does that she does that on TikTok live already, and she had said she would come on and she would do live readings for people on the air with us.
Hey, that'd be fun. I bet a lot of people get into it, man.
She don't do pregnancy questions or a lot of medical stuff. She can't talk about because she is a medical practitioner, and she's been in the medical field for over 17 years. So, but she can ask questions, about like your job, or if you want to know, are you going to get a promotion, or there's a lot of stuff she can answer, and she can she can do tarot readings too. She has like several different types of tarot cards that she does, and she does pendulum work. She has a pendulum, and it'll go one way for yes or no, another way for maybe, and that kind of stuff. So
I think it'd be cool if we could get it live on there and kind of going, especially people that maybe don't understand it or, maybe have a bad outlook on it.
Yeah.
Think that it's bad or something like that. Maybe kind of bring that to light and just kind of show that out there. Might be cool to do a whole show on that one night.
That's one of the reasons we do this show, is so we can bring awareness and all the different points of views that are out there. We don't want people being scared, or paranormal should be more understood and not feared. And that's something EJ always tells us. And the thing is, it's just, the more we understand about it, the more we can kind of talk about it and deal about it. A lot of people are afraid to talk about it. And just like our necroman there,
because I think you get a lot of that problem is, just how people judge you.
Yes, and he agreed to come on, but he doesn't want to like let everybody know who he is and everything, just because I personally know people who have come forward and and talked about their gifts and their families, like you're batshit crazy, and they took them and had them locked up, and they were put it in a mental institution against their will for a while, and then they would
we
get
had
out.
guests that kind of told us about that.
Yeah, I know one lady's been put in mental institution 3 times, but once they figured out that stuff was actually happening to her, it wasn't. They quit doing that. They kind of started working with her, and embracing it once they figured out she wasn't just crazy or whatever. So, but yeah, it's a lot of people are afraid to talk about Bigfoot stories. They're afraid to talk about paranormal ghost stories, and sometimes they're scared to death. They're still afraid to talk to somebody, and that's just wrong.
New Jersey, New Jersey paranormal investigators just chimed in there. Said, anytime we like to discuss demonology from the paranormal perspective, they've got over 20 years experience. We would love to talk about it. Absolutely.
14-minute warning.
Absolutely. Okay.
EJ told me to.
Okay.
Yep, this is that last chance. We only got a few minutes left. Anybody wants to call in, ask Necroman a question, ask us a question. Not that we could give you the best answer, but we'll try really hard.
Anything come through while you took your break? No, everything.
Grandma watched him use the bathroom. We was talking about it.
Did you give somebody the gift if I could?
He said that he would love to give his gift to someone else if he could, because you think it's like a curse having it, or it's a hindrance, or it's just annoying, or
Me and a young boy walk through school hearing things like that. You have to keep quiet because they think you're crazy.
Yeah, so he's basically saying when you're a young boy going through school, you tend to keep quiet about that stuff because everybody thinks you're crazy, and unfortunately sometimes people don't understand. And
I made the mistake and told my ex-wife that she had me committed for three days in 6th floor here in Bowling Green.
He got put away for 3 days on the 6th floor when he told his ex-wife about his gift.
So while you was in there, what'd they tell you? They're like, nah, man, nothing's kind of reading that you're crazy or nothing, man. You're normal.
What'd they tell you? You're normal? What'd the hospital tell you? You was normal?
I had to play stupid so I could get out.
He had to play stupid so he could get out. He said that he told them he don't hear nothing. And then they said, okay, it must be all cleared up now. And they let him out.
So Mackenzie has a question for us real quick, man. We'll get into that real quick. I love questions. So she wants to know, is it a sin to ghost hunt? Like, is it against the Bible?
They give me some high-powered shit, though.
They're asking
like a zombie.
Somebody's asking, is it a sin to go ghost hunting? Does it go against the Bible? The Bible talks about ghosts.
Well, the problem is, the problem is the same thing we talked about before. So it talks on that Bible. It's all perspective.
Yeah,
everything in the Bible is a perspective deal, right? So in the Bible, if it says all spirits are at rest until they go home when Jesus takes them back home. So that kind of that it's always kind of the problem that I had it in it, because it says that it's there. Spirits are in a dormant of rest. So we're not really hunting for spirits, or we're not running into spirits. It's actually demonic energy and stuff that we're feeding. It's your whole outlook. You know what I mean? It's what perspective you want to look at it as, and what way you believe. I wouldn't think that it would be anything bad or against, religion or the Bible or anything to ghost hunt. From my perspective, because you're helping people. In the end, I think that's really what it's about. It's helping people.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got a friend who is a preacher.
He's a pastor.
He's a pastor of a church. And he goes out and helps people, cleanse their house. And
he hears things and sees things.
He hears things and sees things. Necroman here can see shadow people a little bit once in a while, but he mostly just hears things. Our preacher friend, he can see and hear things. And he's also a practicing every Sunday preacher. So I wouldn't think it'd be a sin, because, he's helping people. But, he don't tell his flock about his abilities, because they'll think he's crazy and they won't come to church anymore, But the thing is, like, even your exorcist in your Catholic church, different religions, they're a priest first. They don't start out as a demonologist. They have to be a priest first. They're a holy person. You have to be ordained and very, very strong in your faith to be able to remove something if it's attached to someone or a home. And so I don't think it's a sin. It'd be a sin not to help people. I would think, my viewpoint is everybody I know that does this, that helps people, that are, does removals, are foremost a priest, preacher, ordained, that respect.
Right. Yeah, I think just from all perspective, all perspective, it's about either helping people, whether that's getting rid of a ghost or maybe just putting their mind at ease, helping their mental health. Any way it goes, it's all within good intentions, and it's all good with understanding and helping.
For instance, he was sitting on the Scottsville Square one night, and he waved. And I thought, who are you waving at? So he gets up and walks around the square, and he goes, we're talking to, I don't know what he's talking to, but he comes back, and I said, who are you talking to? And he said, some guy dressed up in the 30s, and he asked me what year this was, and this was back in 2015. And he said, 2015? He said, you mean I've been dead that long?
Oh, wow. And so his friend who's a preacher was talking to a guy, saw him and waving at him, and said, he asked him who he talked to. He said, oh, some guy in a 30s costume. And then they figured out he wasn't a guy in a 30s costume. He was really from the 30s, because he said, what year is it? He goes, 2015. He's like, I've been dead that long?
Hey, it's all pretty wild. And yeah, Mackenzie, I know what you're saying. That's kind of what I was touching on. So in a lot of your religious beliefs and stuff, it says that when you die, you're in that place of rest. So who would we be talking to? Who would we be hunting? Which would be demonic energies that just want to play with us and try to, I don't know, for say, turn us to the bad side, or, lead us into a bad way. And that's just some beliefs. And then others believe that, the spirits are there, and it's people that hasn't moved on yet. Maybe they don't have business. They still have something going on that's holding them back. It's just all kind of what your faith is on that end to believe. And that's kind of why you're seeing both sides, which is just a constant discussion in that world about all of that.
I think we're running out of time, Vinny Voodoo.
We are. We do. We need to cut it out. Hey, Necroman, appreciate having you on. It's been great. Let's give you a hand.
Thanks for being on Supernatural Sundays. And,
hey, it's a great time. Hopefully we can have you back.
And then come on again sometime. And we all enjoy our viewers, and come back next week. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not on?
Nope.